Hello, and welcome to Lopes on Movies. My name is Joey Lopes, and today I am joined by Kyle
Yo.
and Connor.
Yo!
How you doing, fellas? Welcome to, what is today's date? September 1st? We finally made it to
Ooh.
September.
Boy, this summer just fly by.
Does it feel like it's been a year?
No.
Yeah, I feel like it was, March was yesterday, and now it's September, and, it's already like the fall semester for all the colleges around, of course, university here. And I where did this year go, my friends?
It went by.
I think
When
COVID happened. That kind of ruined things.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit of a downer, and now we're stuck.
Just a bit.
we're still living with it, but at least we have direct-to-video movies that we can talk about on our show, which is one of the most wonderful things that we have on this earth. We got to watch so many great direct-to-video movies this year, like The King of Staten Island, Capone, and now the movie we're going to talk about today. But before we talk about today's movie, Kyle,
Yeah.
can you give us a My Name is Earl update? Because if I remember correctly from last week, you said you had been watching My Name is Earl.
It's true, I was.
Oh yeah, the big My Name is Earl rewatch.
Yeah.
How's that going? Yeah.
I stopped. I haven't watched it since.
It's that episode?
Yeah. I think I might have watched like one more after that episode, then I was like, hey, this show kind of lost me.
Wow, I don't know if that's exactly what I was expecting. Have you been watching like anything else? Is anything filling the void?
Not really.
Not
I
really.
watched some Yu-Gi-Oh! That show sucks.
Yeah, when you're at that stage of quarantine, it's
Still haven't watched The Irishman. But
Kyle, someday you'll watch The Irishman and you'll think,
Yeah.
it was okay. And then we'll all move on with our lives.
yeah, well, we'll have a Irishman update.
Irishman update. I eagerly await that episode of Lopes on
well,
Movies, and we have the
keep waiting,
Irishman
bud.
update. Well, all right then. I guess that pretty much covers it for the My Name Is Earl update. A little bit anticlimactic, but I guess that's how it goes sometimes. So I guess we're just gonna dive headfirst into the movie that we're here to talk about, which is, of course, Bill and Ted Face the Music, the third film in the Bill and Ted franchise that took 20-something years, maybe 30 years almost to get made. It's one of those sequels, So
Usually those sequels are so good.
Yeah, right. The fraudulent sequel 30 years after the end of the last one. It
always works out.
It's a great genre of Hollywood production. But I think this is regardless an interesting one to talk about, or at least I think it will be. So Connor, how about you give us a little synopsis of Bill and Ted Face the Music?
Bill and Ted Face the Music. What more can be said? I mean, this is Bill and Ted 3, what we've all been waiting for. Okay. From IMDb, once told they'd save the universe during a time-traveling adventure, two would-be rockers from San Dimas, San Dimas, California, whatever.
They're from California. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, San Dimas, California find themselves as middle-aged dads trying to crank out a hit song and fulfill their destiny. It was directed by Dean Parisot and stars Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves reprising their roles as Bill and Ted, as well as Samara Weaving, Bridget Lundy Payne, playing their daughters. Joey, what did you think of Bill and Ted Face the Music?
Well, I think we need to establish something on this episode before we really talk about what we thought about Bill and Ted Face the Music, which is that I don't think any of us know anything about Bill and Ted.
No.
I never saw the first two Bill and Ted movies. I don't think either of you guys did before watching this. Is that correct?
I know about it through like osmosis.
Yeah, everybody knows some things about Bill and Ted, right?
Like I know like some of the jokes and stuff like that,
What
but
the
I've never
bit is.
seen the movies.
Yeah. So going into this, this is just kind of like the big movie that's out right now, and we wanted to talk about something new. So like even though we have no vested interest in Bill and Ted Facing the Music, finally, it felt like this was the only movie we could really watch. So I was really curious, having absolutely no nostalgia for Bill and Ted, and these characters and their adventure, and having no idea what went on in the other movies. I really didn't know what this was going to be like what kind of movie this was going to be. Is this going to be one of those movies where it's like just a straight sequel and you have no idea what's going on, or was it going to be one of those classic like soft reboot situations where it's like you have the original characters in it, but it's very clearly designed to be watched like by new people to bring them into the universe. The only issue being like I can't imagine they're trying to make a Bill and Ted universe, Like usually the soft reboot is something you do when you intend to make further sequels, but I can't see that happening here. So really this just strikes me as they wanted to make another Bill and Ted movie. And that's really interesting to me, But overall, I thought it was fine. I think all I really wanted from Bill and Ted Facing the Music was for it to be just kind of amusing, I wanted to find whatever ridiculous adventure these ridiculous characters were going to go on to make me crack a smile once or twice, and it did, and I think that's really all you can ask for. But I will say, a lot of critics have really liked this movie, and it's got a very decent response from a lot of older critics who know like the previous movies, and I think I understand that, and I wouldn't fault anybody for finding this movie a little bit better than I necessarily registered it as, because there are some things in it that I think are really well considered and good, but it's also kind of sloppy, and not all of the running gags really land. And it at that point, like, I think its heart's in the right place, and for me that was enough to make me enjoy watching it. But your mileage will vary, I think. That's kind of where I'm at with Bill and Ted. What about you guys?
I think nostalgia probably really goes a long way towards this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it doesn't really feel like a movie that like a studio just created to make a new Bill and Ted's. It feels like they were like, let's just make a third one. Who cares?
Right, yeah. Like, it totally feels like I don't know if I want to say passion project, but it very well might be. Like, I'm pretty sure that like the only reason this exists is because, Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and the writers of it, which are Chris Matheson, Ed Solomon, they wanted to make a new one, right? Like they just they just wanted to make another Bill and Ted movie. It wasn't a thing where a studio was like, what do we got? What old thing can we drudge up to, to make a new sequel to? It came from them, it came from a good place, and they've been trying to get this thing made for like a decade. Like it was first announced in like 2010 that they were working on a third one, and it just took forever for them to finally like finalize something and get it done. So like it's hard to like look at Bill and Ted Face the Music and think, oh, this is just a cynical retread, whatever. Then I don't want to watch this, because I really do think it came from a good place, and you can tell 100%. In the movie, like you can tell that they were having a good time with this, and they were passionate about it. I just think there are some things in it that it's not perfect. It definitely isn't like it's a very sloppy movie, and I wonder if that quality is in the original too as well.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
What about you, Kyle? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the highest quality of thing, but it's fine. It's good. They're very. You can tell that they're both good actors, but they also are really they're friends too. Mm-hmm. Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter also, and and their careers have kind of taken different, like trajectories since the original Bill and Ted. Like that you can just tell. And I looked this up quickly. Obviously, Keanu Reeves. Like I'm almost at the point where there's too much Keanu Reeves now, where it was kind of nice that he wasn't in things for a while, and now he's just in everything. But this one was good, and it's obviously a different role than what he normally does. But Alex Winter, what I was looking up is he kind of went into more documentary filmmaking.
Really?
Where that's just what he did. He acted in very few things. I think he's lent his voice to like some animated things here and there, but he doesn't really act anymore. So this is like the first time he's really acted in something in quite a while, which is kind of cool. And I think he does it really well, and they play off each other like excellently. I love that it's a 90 minutes. It doesn't overstay its welcome for what it is. Like it's not like it's the most expertly written thing, but it looks, it's fun. It's fine. I thought the beginning parts were funnier than the end. And I think the end you might feel, I bet you there's like a nostalgic kind of quality where you almost feel like a melancholy at the end, which you don't really have if you don't have the background with the previous two.
Yeah.
I would think. So like, for me at least, not having really much of any nostalgia for Bill and Ted, I actually enjoyed the beginning more, and I thought there was some fun gags like at the wedding scene at the beginning, which I thought was pretty funny.
Great.
I think it starts off really strong, and like, it's just nice to watch. It's not like, it's nothing too crazy, but there is one excellent part that's maybe around, I don't know if it's quite the midpoint, but it was one of our favorite sets that Kyle pointed out immediately.
Yeah.
This is 2020, the set. Kyle, please just explain.
So, about midway through the movie, they visit a mansion, and within a second, that mansion looked familiar. The Capone mansion is in a new movie. We have seen 3 new movies all summer, and the Capone mansion showed up in 2 of them. This is fate, guys.
And it looks identical.
They did nothing to it to change.
It's literally just the same exact set. It's the same exact location from Capone. Done. Nothing has been done to it. Just
nope, not even slightly.
Yeah. In this movie, it's mainly played as a. It's a set piece for like a whole comedy scene. But there's also a good bit in that scene that fans of rock and roll music will greatly appreciate.
I wanted Capone to show up at the door. Not,
that would have been great.
Tom Hardy's awesome. Capone. Could you imagine the Capone crossover with Bill and Ted?
I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't happen.
No,
everyone's been
know.
asking for it.
And the movie's about time travel, right? Like, I mean, that's the whole bit with Bill and Ted. You could totally have Capone like show up, randomly.
Like Tom Hardy's Capone.
Tom Hardy's Capone. Yeah, no, that would have been sick. That would have been great.
I mean, it's gonna be pretty wild because when the Oscars happen next year, it's Tom Hardy is probably going to be up against Keanu Reeves for Best Actor.
Oh, definitely.
For these two, they're definitely getting nominated, and they're both going to be they're going to use the scenes from the same set, and people are going to wonder, was this the same movie, or when they're both nominated for the same thing.
Okay, I want to go back to talking about the film a little bit, and not the Capone set.
What, you don't want to keep talking about Capone? That's odd.
I believe me, I love that bit, but I guess like I want to ask you guys and get your opinion on this, because it's something that I always go back and forth on, and I can't tell if it's the right way to think about this or not. The special effects in this movie look really bad. Right?
What are you talking about?
But my point being, like, it's the classic like modern era low budget comedy CGI special effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it looks like something that like a guy who took a class in After Effects, did. Like, like I don't want to discount it that much, obviously, and obviously a lot of work went into it, but it looks like low budget CGI special effects. Now, when you look at the old Bill and Ted movies, they're all like practical effects and optical effects done with film, right? And to me, those look infinitely better, even though they don't look anywhere like close to real. They obviously look like optical effects, but I can never tell if that's just like because I have a fondness for those like old kind of special effects, and I don't have that fondness for like modern CGI. It just kind of seems like sterile to me and kind of lifeless.
Yeah.
Am I on the ball there? Or do you think like it's just because I for some reason like the way old special effects look?
No, I think I get what you're talking about. There's something like, yeah, it is hard to put your finger on it because it looks worse, but in some ways you prefer it, and I'm not really sure why your brain says that. Maybe it's just nostalgia too or something, but it is interesting because I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's just that your brain knows when something is fake, and even though it's a practical effect, it's at least it's real, rather than just like a digital projection, which is just like, well, this is just something. And we've seen it over and over again.
But even like corny optical effects that they would do in like the older movies. Like I was watching like a clip from a Bill and Ted movie where like they're falling to hell, I believe. And it's very clearly like they're just like on a green screen, like waving their arms around. But like, but that looked better to me because it almost like it works better for comedy than these kind of like pristine looking CGI like special effects. I don't know what it is exactly. It's just
I think there's something to the fact
of
there is something with the way it's shot though too. I think things that are shot on film look more authentic.
I mean,
just in general.
This movie looks very digital.
Yeah, that's
very digital.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. This is something that I don't think most people are really gonna be too bothered by. But it I don't know. It definitely, like, as soon as I first saw like the time machine show up in this, I was like, that looks way too much like a modern special effect for a Bill and Ted movie. I don't know if that's really like. I think these are like the part of the appeal of these movies now is the vintage vibe, right? Like if you're watching a Bill and Ted movie in 2020, then you're willingly going back to watch a movie from like late 80s and early 90s, right? So like you want to be in that mindset. So when you watch a new Bill and Ted movie and it looks so not like that, maybe that's part of it. It's just like a weird disconnect there between the movies. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of an unfair criticism. I feel like any movie made nowadays is going to have to contend with that. Like I don't think even if they wanted to shoot this on film and do it in a more classic style, I don't think they would have ever had the budget or leeway to make that happen. Kind of a shame. So let's talk a little bit about the story of the movie, because I think on paper I love everything about it, but like the execution isn't perfect. But I love just the story structure and the way it's like the way that everything is kind of laid out. So like the basic premise of the movie is like, I guess in one of the older movies they were told they were going to save the world with their music, right? Like they were going to write a song that like save the future or something, right? And then in this movie they add an addendum to that the song is supposed to save the universe. Like apparently the universe is going to collapse unless they write this amazing rock song. And the bit is that for the entire time since the last movie they've been trying to write this song and failing, and their career is just taking a nosedive, and like all of their music is just not resonating with anybody. And the people from the future are like, you have like the exact rest of the runtime of this movie. I think they give like 70 something minutes, literally the exact rest of the runtime of the movie to write this song, or else the entire world is going to collapse. Right. So Bill and Ted decide to go on a journey to slightly into the future from their own timeline to meet themselves and steal the song from themselves. So they don't have to put in the work to write it. And, of course, hilarity ensues. But meanwhile, their daughters are going on a similar journey where they're going into the past to get a group of like legendary musicians together so that when their dads eventually do write this song, they'll have like an incredible band to play it. So we're talking guys like, Louis Armstrong, Jimi Hendrix, I think Mozart, going like way back to get all like the best possible musicians, a lot of like historical figures. And like that was the bit with Bill and Ted, right? Like they were meeting all these historical figures, and like so that's kind of preserved, but this time through their daughters. Meanwhile, Bill and Ted themselves are just kind of like, going through. I guess like for Bill and Ted, their journey is like, it's kind of hard to say. I guess part of it is contending with the fact that they're getting older, and part of it is like the fact that their relationships with their wives are not great because they're still acting like they were when they were kids. So there's a little bit of a character arc there. But then there's also the sense of like, the passing of the torch to the younger generation through their daughters, which is a ridiculous concept in a movie where the heroes are the Bill and Ted, like I don't know what torch they're passing. It's like these numbskull like weirdos, and then their daughters are like basically the same people, which I thought was really funny. So
Keanu whoever played Keanu Reeves' daughter, she did a really good job of replicating him.
Yeah.
Like, from the little I've seen from the original two Bill and Ted's, her impression was like spot on.
Yeah. So like to me, like that whole structure of the movie is really, really solid. And I could tell like that the script has been in development for a really long time because it's very well thought out in that sense. The only things that don't always work is like I would say it's like 50-50 where the jokes land sometimes and sometimes they don't. Like there's a couple of bits in here that I think are a little bit like tired, like Kid Cudi shows up and he does that classic actor bit where he's doing his personality is different than you would have expected. He's like you know, the molecular scientist genius guy, you know, who knows everything about time travel and, you know, whatever. Like, it's like, okay, I get it. And then there's a bit with a robot that I liked at first, and then it got real old.
They played it out way too much.
So like it feels like in that sense it's sloppy, right? Like so the structure is great, but it's the moment to moment like bits and comedy that sometimes really land, sometimes don't always land. So I that's why I think your mileage will definitely vary while you're watching this. Like you're either gonna like just be really, really into the whole journey of the thing, or you're gonna see some of the humor is just not really cutting it, and you're like, I don't know if this is really for me. But
that's what I'm saying. But it's mostly at the like second half on where it starts to lose you a little bit.
Yeah,
with those jokes you're saying.
Yeah, but I think like the movie is so unapologetically stupid that like even when the jokes don't perfectly land, like at least it's not like it doesn't feel like it's trying so hard to make you laugh. You know, it just feels like the movie just hanging out with the movie. You know, and sometimes it'll make you laugh, sometimes it won't. You know,
it's quick too. It's not. It doesn't go on and on. So
yeah, it tends not to dwell on.
They move on. They move on to the next one fast enough if something doesn't land, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think you're watching this movie because you like these characters. You like Bill and Ted. They're likable guys. You like their daughters because they're just Bill and Ted, but played by different people. And honestly, like after watching it, I really just didn't have like I can nitpick the humor that didn't work for me, but I really don't have much negative to say about Bill and Ted Face the Music.
No.
Like again, its heart's in the right place. You know, it's got like it definitely has the kind of energy to it that you want to see from this kind of sequel. You know, if you're gonna make a sequel 30 years after the last movie, you don't want it to feel like some studio head was like, we gotta scrounge this thing up, make a new one, or reboot it. Like I read apparently that like this originally the script was getting hard to get produced because the studios were like, I think we should reboot Bill and Ted instead of making a sequel. Like, could you imagine like they reboot Bill and Ted with like a new Bill and Ted? Like you get like Chris Hemsworth
awful.
and some other like charisma black hole actor. Yeah, Tom Holland. Like, oh god, that just sounds like absolute torture. So if that would have happened, that would have been the worst thing ever. But luckily, this movie definitely had the right idea. I think if they wanted to make a Bill and Ted sequel, that's all it is. It came from a place of actual creative desire, which is all you can really ask for sometimes.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about Bill and Ted, guys? Do you have any parting words?
I kind of like this director. He made some stuff that we actually really like. He's made some junk. Speaking of like, making movies with actors that are way past their prime. He did make, or he did direct the movie Red 2.
Oh, I love Red 1.
I don't know if you remember like the Red movies
with like Bruce Willis and
like the old people. Spies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
I forgot they made a sequel to that.
Yeah, well, he did Red 2, yeah. But he actually did some stuff that we like, also, or at least that I like. He did the movie Galaxy Quest. That might have been his first feature, actually.
Oh, yeah.
From what I'm going back on. His first feature looks like it was the movie Home Fries, which was written by Vince Gilligan.
Of Breaking Bad fame.
And it's not a great movie. But he also, here's something that we can all be very happy that he directed, which was the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode Shaq.
Oh,
hey!
I mean, if you directed
Great episode.
Shaq, then
he directed Shaq.
You know what's
an
going on.
all-time episode,
all-time classic episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Curb Your
Yeah,
Enthusiasm.
this guy's okay. This guy's not bad.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that all 3 Bill and Ted movies were directed by different people. Actually, I'm pretty sure that the consistent part across the series is the writers and obviously Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. But the directors are all different, and I think they all put like kind of a different spin on things. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I want to go back and watch the original Bill and Ted movies, honestly. I feel like what I knew about the movies from cultural osmosis made me like, interested, but not like, running to go watch them. They seem like they would be fun. But like watching this, it's like, I like these guys. I really like, Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves playing these characters. There's just something about it that's so like bizarre and enjoyable. They're just very endearing. So I think, one of these days I'm definitely going to go ahead and watch those original movies.
Yeah, me too. Well, make sure what you do, though, when you watch the originals, make sure it's been long enough so that you have nostalgia for Bill and Ted Face the Music when you're watching the originals. How about that?
That hurts my brain. Does that make sense?
I think it does, right?
So
it's reverse nostalgia.
It's kind of like time travel itself.
Exactly.
Oh.
I think that's the way to do it.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Loves on Movies. We'll be back next week with another review of something. And hopefully we will see you there. So have a lovely rest of your day.